Hello everyone, how's it going, and welcome to today's Wild Rift video. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a look at the blind monk Lee Sin. Lee Sin is one of the strongest early game champions in the game. With his incredible burst damage and high mobility, Lee Sin can look to get early advantages and snowball his lead to carry his team. With his passive and abilities, Lee Sin can clear through the jungle faster than any other champion in the game, giving him more opportunities to look for ganks and help his team. As a fighter, Lee Sin wants to build items that give him a lot of damage, but he also wants to build items to help with his survivability, especially when he's going to be dashing in a lot and trying to deal as much damage as possible to enemy champions. For the boots, we're going to go for Gluttonous Greaves. You can also go for Boots of Dynamism. I would only go for the Boots of Dynamism if you are ahead in gold. It does give you a lot more early game power with that extra armor penetration, but it does fall off a little bit in the later stages of the game, which is where Gluttonous Greaves comes in. That gives you more attack damage and also gives you Omnivamp to help with the survivability. Light Youmuu's Ghost Blade, incredibly strong attack damage item that gives you a lot of movement speed with the momentum passive, and then can give you a bit of attack speed when you do proc that momentum stacks as well. When it gets to the maximum momentum stacks, this just allows you to get around the map a lot quicker, but also gives you a lot of damage. Trinity Force is just an all-round great item which gives you tank stats, damage, attack speed, ability haste, movement speed. It's just everything you need with a fighter like Lee Sin. The Spellblade passive as well, we are going to be using our abilities a lot, especially to try and use our passive the best way possible, trying to get that extra little bit of attack speed when we're clearing through the jungle and also when it gets to team fights. And also the Valor passive and giving us that bit of extra movement speed to help stick on enemy champions makes our life a little bit easier. In terms of defensive items, we do have Edge of Night. Big reason why we go for Edge of Night is for that Annual passive, that big shield which will help block the next hostile ability. So if we have any sort of abilities coming towards us, for example like a Nautilus Hook or a Nautilus Ultimate, that will be blocked by Edge of Night. And this is huge for when Lee Sin's trying to jump in and trying to deal as much damage as possible, because blocking that next hostile attack can mean that he's not going to get crowd control, he's not going to take any damage, and he can stay in the backline and deal as much damage as possible. But also the item still gives you a lot of attack damage and also armor penetration, so it's a good mixture again of an item that can give you damage but also has the defensive capabilities in there as well. Mortal Minder is still going to be very important for a champion like Lee Sin. The percentage armor penetration at this stage of the game, there are going to be a lot of champions that have a lot of armor at this stage of the game when you're building your 4th or 5th item, so this is extremely important. The percentage armor penetration scales a lot better than just adding armor penetration time and time again. You still need the percent armor penetration. And with Last Whisper as well, and with Mortal Reminder, you also get the Grievous Wounds. That means you can reduce the healing of enemy champions, and again another item that gives you quite a bit of attack damage. And then Ruin Sterak's Gauge as well, it does say that you do get the plus 400 maximum health, but you also have the heavy-handed passive, which means 50% of Lee Sin's base damage is converted into bonus attack damage as well. So this item gives you both maximum health and also attack damage. The Lifeline passive as well, when you do drop low on health, you are going to be getting that shield, which again will help you a little bit with your survivability. In terms of runes, we have two options for runes. You can either go for Conqueror if you want to get a little bit more sustained damage, you want to get more damage over time. However, you can go for First Strike. This is a lot more of an aggressive rune where you need to be the first one to deal damage, but it does have a lot more carry potential for Lee Sin. You can dash in, be the first one to deal damage, and deal a lot of damage with your abilities and your auto attacks. It is a bit hit or miss though, because sometimes First Strike will be pretty useless, which is kind of where Conqueror comes in if you want to go for the long sustained team fights instead. Gathering Storm will just give us a lot of AD over time. You get a little bit of attack damage in the early game, but then it scales pretty well into the mid and late game, so just giving us a bit more damage overall. Giant Slayer will help us deal more damage to enemy champions that have a lot of bonus health. This will allow us to deal a little bit more bonus damage to them. Legend Bloodline for the extra Omnivamp. We do already have a little bit of Omnivamp with Gluttonous Grease, but Legend Bloodline comes in handy to give us extra Omnivamp to again help a bit with our survivability. And then Sudden Impact. We have many different ways in which we can dash with Lee Sin. We have our first ability. If we land the first part, we can then travel with our first ability to get the armor penetration, or we can use our second ability to dash anywhere we want to, basically on the map, over walls, towards enemy champions, or even away from enemy champions as well. And again, this will give us that 13 armor penetration, which will help us a lot, especially during the early game, but also helps a bit in the later stages of the game as well. And in terms of the summoner spells, since Lee Sin is mainly a jungler, we are going to be taking Smite to make sure that we can secure the objectives and deal more damage to jungle monsters. And of course, we're going to go for Flash. Lee Sin is a champion that has a lot of flashy plays and a lot of combos to try and get onto the enemy backline to kick them into your team. And that's a real big difference with Lee Sin compared to other junglers. His flashy plays with all of his dashes and also the summon spell Flash means that he can be the win condition for your team. But that is everything for the build. Let's head on to the abilities. First off, let's take a look at Lee Sin's passive, which is Flurry, where Lee Sin's abilities grant him attack speed for 2 attacks within a few seconds. The first attack also restores energy, and the second attack will restore half of that amount. A very simple and easy passive to understand, but something that is so important for Lee Sin, especially when clearing through the jungle. Now, all of Lee Sin's basic abilities have 2 parts to it. You have the first part of the ability, and then you have the second part. These work as 2 attacks for each part of the ability. So when I use the first ability, you can see here that I can auto attack twice to get the extra attack speed. Use my first ability again, and then I get the attack speed again for 2 more auto attacks. So it's not determined on which ability you use and what order you use it in. Every single time you use an ability, you need to get into the rhythm that you're going to be auto attacking twice every single time that you use it, whether it's the first part of your ability or your second part. You can see all your basic abilities have 1 part, and then you have a timer where you need to use it again to try and use the second part of the ability. And doing this through the jungle will accelerate your jungle clear so much quicker than what it was before. If you're just using abilities and just auto attacking time and time again, just using your abilities all at the same time, you are not using Lee Sin efficiently when clearing through the jungle. You need to use 1 ability, auto attack twice, another ability, auto attack twice, and keep doing this over and over again until you get into the mindset of doing this. And this is also kind of the same when it comes to team fights as well. It's a little bit more difficult to make sure that you auto attack twice, but still getting into a position where you can go into melee range, you can auto attack twice after using an ability means that you can get more damage output than ever before with Lee Sin. Lee Sin's first ability is Sonic Wave, which Lee Sin fires an energy wave that deals physical damage to enemies and reveals them. So reveals champions such as Teemo and Evelynn. Hitting an enemy allows Resonating Strike to be casted within 3 seconds. And Resonating Strikes allows Lee Sin to dash to the enemy marked target by Sonic Wave, dealing more physical damage based on their missing health. So what you want to do most of the time is start off this ability at the start of a fight, you know, with Sonic Wave, trying to do the best to try and get onto an enemy champion, and then try and do as much burst damage as possible within that 3 seconds, and then use Resonating Strike, because the more missing health the enemy champions have, the more damage you're going to be able to do. You can see the range of your first ability is also quite long. You can also use this on jungle camps as well. You can do this to get around jungle camps a lot quicker. And this is something that will, again, help your jungle clear speed a lot, because you'll be able to do this as you're clearing through. So I clear raptors, I can use my first ability over the wall, and also get over the wall with Resonating Strike as well. But as you can see, when you land your first ability, you have a few seconds. You'll see the ability lights up. So you have 3 seconds to try and travel with Resonating Strike. If this expires, then you're not able to dash. So you need to make sure that you stay in range as well, because if you move out of the range, then you're not going to be able to use the ability. So you need to use your first ability, stay in range of your first ability, and then use it again. A really cool combo is using your first ability in combo with your ultimate. So you can use your first ability, knock them away, then use your first ability again. And the great thing is that the kick will never move the enemies outside of range of your first ability. And again, as I mentioned, since your Resonating Strike, your second part of your first ability will deal damage based on their missing health. It means that you're going to be able to do a lot more damage with your first ability because you're using your ultimate as well. So you can use first ability into your ultimate and even use your second ability as well, auto attack a few times, and then use Resonating Strike. So it's a really cool way to use your kick, but also to travel to the enemy champions as well at the same time. Use your kick and then use your first ability to travel to that targeted location. Lee Sin's second ability is Safeguard, which allows Lee Sin to dash to a targeted location, and if an enemy is nearby, Lee Sin will shield himself for a few seconds. And it also allows Iron Will to be casted within 3 seconds. Safeguard cooldown does get reduced by 0.5 seconds with each attack, which again will kind of help a little bit with the extra attack speed that you're getting from your passive. And Iron Will empower the next 2 attacks to deal additional magic damage and gain Omnivamp, which will help a lot with Lee Sin's survivability. Now, as you can see with Lee Sin's second ability, you can use this to dash anywhere on the map. You don't need any wards, you don't need any vision. It doesn't really matter about where you can dash or where you want to dash. You can dash in any direction you want to, over walls, under walls, on top of yourself to get the extra attack speed. There is no limits in where you can use Lee Sin's second ability. As it mentioned, so you need to have an enemy nearby to gain the shield. If you don't have an enemy nearby, then you won't be gaining the shield. And as you can see, you have to be within quite close range to be able to get the shield as well. So even if you dash a little bit out of the range, you won't be able to get the shield. And this is a great way for Lee Sin to jump behind enemy champions to try and kick them into your team. You know, when we can now combo our first ability with our second ability and then kick them into your team just like that. It's a great way of getting behind enemy champions, which is always going to be huge with Lee Sin. You know, we can do it again like this. As you can see, there's a great way in which you can use the second ability to get behind enemy champions, because you have no limits with this ability, which is crazy if you think about it. You can dash anywhere on the map, you can dash over walls, you can dash behind champions, and because this ability has no limit, it gives you that access to so much playmaking potential as well, as you can see with the ability. Tempest is Lee Sin's third ability, which deals magic damage to nearby enemies and reveals them for a few seconds. And hitting an enemy also allows Cripple to be cast within 3 seconds, and Cripple will slow enemy champions hit by Tempest decaying over 4 seconds. Now you can hit your third ability on multiple enemy champions. It's not just one enemy champion, you can hit this on multiple. Again, another way in which when you're clearing through the likes of raptors or walls, you can use Tempest to hit on every single one of these champions. So use your third ability. You can see there I hit 2 enemy champions, and I can use it again to slow enemy champions. You can also just hit it on one as well if you want to focus on that single target damage. Again, the slow will help him a lot when he's trying to use his dash behind or trying to close the gap. You can use this really quickly on top of each other as well to just apply the slow straight away if you feel like you can't get into range to use your second ability. Making sure that you use this slow effect to get into range if an enemy champion is running away. If you're able to dash, use your third ability twice, and then with that slow you can easily hit your first ability, or even look to try and flash behind them to use your ultimate as well. So even though the slow might not seem that beneficial, the damage is quite high, which is great when you're trying to play this burst Lee Sin build. But the slow will actually help Lee Sin stay within range to use his auto attacks, or try and even run behind enemy champions to kick them into your team. So something that it's still beneficial even if it doesn't seem like it with such a mobile champion like Lee Sin. And lastly, we have Lee Sin's ultimate, Dragon's Rage. This is where all the magic can happen for Lee Sin. Lee Sin launches a powerful roundhouse kick at an enemy champion, dealing physical damage and knocking them back. Now, when Lee Sin knocks back that enemy champion, enemies that the target collide with are also knocked airborne and also take physical damage. So as I mentioned, you can use Dragon Rage, Lee Sin's ultimate, to knock enemy champions into your team just like this. However, there are other ways in which you can use his ultimate as well. As it explains, there are ways in which you can use your ultimate to actually knock up other enemy champions behind that target, which means that you can get easy access to that target behind, and you can even deal damage to them as well. So for example, I can use this Lee Sin kick and aim it directly towards this target dummy behind. If I use the kick, you can see that it's going to deal damage, and then I can also use my first ability on this high value target. This means that I can get easy access to the backline. I'm also going to be able to deal a lot of damage as well. And since my first ability does more damage depending on missing health, when I use my ultimate here and try and catch it on that high value target, I'm then able to use my first ability to deal more damage. You can see here, first ability into first ability, and then I'm already in range. That's a quick and easy way to get onto the backline if you don't feel like you have access in terms of jumping in, because jumping in with Lee Sin can be a little bit difficult. You know, if there's situations like this, trying to jump in and trying to kick the right person can be a little bit difficult sometimes. Sometimes you might kick the wrong target, sometimes you might dash in, and since you are quite squishy, you just get CC'd and you just get one shot and you can't use any of your abilities. So in terms of a safer way to use your ultimate, you could just use your front line as a source of damage, kick them into your back line, and then use your first ability to deal damage to that backline carry as much as possible. Now, in terms of combos, I already showed you a few combos. I'm going to show you the basic combos that you need to understand. There are many ways in which you can use Lee Sin's ability, whether you start with your first ability, you start with your second ability, or you can even start with your ultimate if you're even able to get close enough to enemy champions. But in terms of the basic combos, the best one and the one that I want you all to start off with is using your first ability to travel to a high value target, using your resonating strike, using your second ability behind that target, and then kicking the enemy champion into your team. This is the most basic way to use Lee Sin's combo, but there are many different ways in which you can use the other abilities as well. You know, if you get close enough in terms of melee range, you can use your first ability into your ultimate, dash in and do as much damage as possible, and then use resonating strike to deal that extra damage to missing health. So what I did there was the first ability into the ultimate, second ability to dash in, third ability to deal more damage, and then use resonating strike to deal that damage to missing health. And yes, it doesn't look like it does a lot of damage because I am using I'm using this on target dummies, but when you actually find a high value target and you use this combo, it's a great way to deal a lot of burst damage. You can see there 1500 damage against a target dummy that has 100 armor. Imagine that against someone like a Zeri or a Caitlyn or someone that you're able to catch out with the items available. I mean, I haven't even bought any items yet, so just imagine what the combo is like if there is any items available. But again, there are ways in which you can use your flash as well. You can use your flashing kick. So I can use my second ability to dash in, I can use my ultimate and then my kick just like that to surprise enemy champions, to knock them in your team. I could do the same with my first ability as well. I can flash backwards. Well, I did that wrong. I pressed the buttons too quickly there. Use the ultimate and then flash and then get into range to use your other abilities. I kind of did that combo wrong, but you understand what I mean in terms of the kick flash. It can be a little bit difficult to do in terms of a combo. It will take some time to get used to, but again, you can use other abilities. You can use your ultimate to then jump in, do a bunch of damage. You can see here, like, there are many ways in which you can use your flash, you can use your ultimate and all your other abilities as well in terms of being able to get a combo off. But again, it's knowing when to use the right abilities at the right time. But there are a few basic abilities there and a few basic combos I want you to learn and master before going to these advanced combos, which involves things like Protobelt, flashing and everything like that on top of it. Now, in terms of leveling order, at level 1, you always want to go for your first ability. This will deal the best amount of single target damage possible when you're clearing through jungle camps. You can use this to start off either red buff or blue buff, and you're going to be able to clear that jungle camp very, very quickly. Then after that, you want to go for your third ability. Since you're going to be dealing the most amount of damage with your third ability, you don't really need the sustain at this point of your second ability at level 2. So level 3 will just be able to get in there and use as much damage as possible. Then we want to make sure we go for our second ability, Once we have all three of our basic abilities up and available, this is when we can use our passive to its full potential. Every single time that you use an ability, make sure you auto attack twice when clearing through the jungle to get as much jungle clear speed as possible. Then we want to make sure that we max our first ability. Lowering the cooldown of your first ability is super important. This is a great way to get onto the enemy backline, a great way to dash in as well, or even try and dash over the wall to try and secure objectives. Then you want to max your second ability. Again, the main reason being is for the cooldown. You can see here in terms of your first ability, the cooldown goes down, and the second ability, the cooldown also goes down. So that basic combo that I was talking about in terms of using your first ability, jumping onto an enemy champion, and using your second ability behind them to kick them into your team, you could do this more often when maxing your first and your second ability, since the cooldown gets lowered. And then making sure that you level up your ultimate when possible, and going for your third ability as your last maximum stack in terms of abilities. But that's everything I wanted to talk about in terms of Lee Sin, his abilities and his build. We're going to go into the gameplay now. I'm going to show you all a few tips and tricks when playing a real game with Lee Sin. All right, here we go on to the gameplay with Lee Sin. In this game, I used First Strike instead of Conqueror, since I was against a super squishy team with the likes of Lulu, Kai'Sa, Ezreal. I think there are ways in which you can play Conqueror. You can also play First Strike as well. There are probably ways in which you can use both of these runes. I think Conqueror is a lot better if you're against a lot more of the tanks. However, with First Strike, I was also against Evelynn jungle as well. So I knew that I could be the main carry if I can deal that first instance of damage. You know, being able to use my first ability, get onto them super quickly, I think is the best way possible in which you can be a main carry with Lee Sin. As you can see, to start things off, we're using our first ability to try and clear through the major jungle objectives to start things off. Doing this is super important because you have so much single target damage at level 1, being able to use your first ability to deal that extra single target damage. And you're seeing already that every single time that I'm using an ability, I'm always using my auto attacks. The only time you won't see me use my abilities and auto attacking is when I'm jumping over the wall like that. You can already see my jungle clear speed is already extremely fast with how, you know, how I guess how long we are into the game, even though it's only 1 minute and 12 seconds. I did skip out one of the camps, which I think is okay for Lee Sin to do, you know, being able to skip out one camp. So I skipped out the Gromp in this instance. Skipping out that Gromp and trying to get to the Scuttle Crab sooner, I think is a lot better for Lee Sin, because then he can use his early game advantage. You know, I'm against an Evelynn this game. I know that Evelynn's not going to be level 5 yet, even though Evelynn does have pretty crazy jungle clear as well. You can see that Evelynn also had kind of the same strategy as me. It does seem like didn't go for the full jungle clear trying to get to level 5, but instead going for the Scuttle Crab instead. And you can see here that Evelynn is nearly level 5, but not quite there just yet. But really good stun from Pyke there, really good setup, allows us to get the kill there. And you can see that I'm already looking to try and catch out the Evelynn here. I'm looking around here because I know the Evelynn's going to be a little bit invisible. I know the Evelynn is going to look around to try and get some more kills. You can see here the Evelynn's right here trying to get a kill, but we're here to clean up anyway. Again, a 1-for-1 trade, pretty good for us. We are a bit behind on level. I smited the cannon. Don't judge me. Me sniping the cannon there meant that I was able to get level 5. To be honest, I didn't really need level 5 in any of these exchanges. But getting level 5 now is pretty nice. We go back to base. And since I got 1 kill and I got 1 assist, and I know that I'm going to be, or try and be a main carry in this game, I did go for the boost of dynamism this time, because the extra armor penetration in the early game means that we can be more of a carry and we can try and deal as much damage as possible. The thing is, playing against Evelynn jungle is that she's extremely difficult to track, and she's extremely difficult to know where she is. So for example, like, she's there at the moment in the top lane. I make a really nice play here in the mid lane, dashing over the wall, using my flash and using my kick to get into to get the Ezreal into the Yone. Again, a pretty nice play there. And that kind of shows really the potential of Lee Sin and how scary Lee Sin can be. Playing against Lee Sin is one of the most daunting things I think ever. when playing Wild Rift. I mean, Evelyn's pretty up there as well, to be honest with you. But I think in terms of Lee Sin, since he can dash anywhere on the map with his second ability and just get to anywhere he wants to on the map, it just makes it extremely difficult to try and play defensive and try and play behind enemy lines, because you know that there's going to be a Lee Sin around every single corner. Like there, the Ezreal probably thought, oh, I'm safe underneath the tower. I'm super low on health, but I can still farm underneath the tower. Suddenly, a Lee Sin dashes and flashes onto you, kicks you into Yone, and you're dead, just like that. And that's how quick and easy it can be to make these kind of plays with Lee Sin. Evelyn did get a few kills into the top side, so it does seem like both myself and Evelyn are doing pretty well so far. But you can see how Evelyn's early jungle clear is also pretty fast. You know, she got to level 5 before me early on. If I went for the Gromp up here, if I went for this Gromp and if I went for a full clear of the jungle, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to bot lane in time. And to be honest with you, bot lane probably would have died to Evelyn, because Evelyn probably would have got to level 5, and then it would have been lights out basically for my bot lane. You can see I'm trying to do just a little bit of damage here. I can't really do too much, but I'm just prioritizing in trying to get my mid lane ahead. I can see Evelyn here in the mid lane. Ione looks like he's dead, unfortunately, but maybe we can catch up the Evelyn if we sit inside this bush. The objectives are coming up at the moment. The Pyke's doing really well to roam with me. It's a great way in which a support can help a jungler. If the support can help the jungler like this, if you can look to try and take the likes of the Rift Herald early on with your support roaming, it's a great way again to get an early advantage. And with Lee Sin, you always want to focus Rift Herald over Dragon, because you want to get that early advantage with Lee Sin. Lee Sin is a very strong early game jungler, but he does fall off a little bit in terms of the later stages of the game. But you can see here, we took the Dragon, they took the Rift Herald. That's totally fine for us. I'm trying to use this Rift Herald in the mid lane to try and catch them down. I do get a bit caught out here by getting the Rift Herald there, but the double kick there and the flash actually saves my life, and I still get the first tower of the game as well. So a lot of gold in my back pocket now. You can see my team are trying to get another kill. Might get a kill here onto the Ezreal. Lulu ultimate doesn't really do too much, or does it? Maybe it does. Oh no, Lee Sin does die. That's all down to me getting the mid lane tower. I got the mid lane tower there, and I was actually able to create that, I guess, pressure in a way and create that advantage for my team to dive a little bit further. They did unfortunately both die. So overall, it was a 2-for-1 trade for them, but we did get the Rift Herald, and also we got the first tower of the game. So again, as I mentioned, I've got a lot of money now. I know I'm the main carry in this game. I have a ridiculous amount of damage now. I'm going to go for Sheen now to get the extra Spellblade passive proc, which again, Spellblade passive is really good on Lee Sin, because he's always using abilities all the time. He's always going to get that extra bit of auto attack damage as well, which is great. Most of the time, you'll just see me clearing through the jungle a lot. Again, just using my abilities, using my passive to the full effect. I nearly messed this up. I tried to do it so I try and clear through the jungle as efficiently as possible, but I wasn't able to really that time. I'm waiting here for the Aatrox to... did I mess this? Oh, okay. Why did I not kick the... Okay, that's probably why. Okay. I could have just kicked the Aatrox and probably killed the Aatrox there, but... Yeah, the only problem was I didn't have my second ability. If I had my second ability at the start of that fight, I could have used my second ability to actually dash in and save my Garen, but I couldn't, unfortunately, because I didn't have my second ability up. But this Aatrox champion just does too much damage for me. You know, if Aatrox hits you in that sweet spot, you can see how much damage he does. He has so much sustain and so much healing. Like, this champion is super disgusting. Saying that, I am playing Lee Sin, so I can't really talk too much. I need to defend this bot lane here because I know that my Jin's going to be in huge trouble. You can see that the Lulu is going to die, and so is the Kai'Sa as well. Nice, quick and easy double kill. I know that my Pyke is roaming around a lot, and I know that Kai'Sa and Lulu were pushing in the bot lane. So instead of farming my jungle, instead of taking the red buff and taking my my little Krugs, I was like, okay, I need to run straight to bot lane straight away, because that wave was pushing in. The tower dive was always going to happen there in the bot lane. So right place and right time for me, to be fair. I was able to go back to base in time, able to run quickly to the bot lane and defend Jhin, and also get a double kill as well. I can try and jump on the Ezreal here. It's a little bit difficult. You can see how I wait This is such a huge thing as well with Lee Sin that I haven't really mentioned yet. When you know a champion has a dash or has a way to dodge your first ability, wait for them to use it. That was a perfect scenario there in which I can say that I actually played that really well. So what I did was I dashed first with my second ability and I wait for Ezreal to use his dash. And as soon as Ezreal uses dash, then I use my first ability, because I know there is no way for the Ezreal to escape after he uses third ability. For example, there, if I used my first ability to start off that exchange on the Ezreal can then use his third ability to get out of range, and I can't actually dash onto the Ezreal, which makes it extremely difficult. You can see here that I'm trying to do as much damage as possible before using my first ability. So I use my first ability into my kick and all my other abilities. Before I use the second part, the Resonating Strike on my first ability, again, making sure that I deal more missing health damage. So you're seeing all these little things that I'm doing here with Lee Sin, which is something that you need to wrap around kind of your brain, I guess, when playing Lee Sin. He's a very difficult champion. You know, he's a champion that I'm not expecting you to master straight away. But hopefully the gameplay that you're watching and the tips and tricks in terms of the build and also the abilities will give you a bit of a helping hand. As I said, it will take some time, but hopefully, you know, games like this definitely help out, because there are little things in terms of, you know, waiting for enemies to use their dash, waiting to use the second part of your first ability because it does missing health damage, for example. You know, these are ways in which you're like, oh, how is a Lee Sin doing so much damage to me? Oh, this is probably why, my friends. This is probably why. I can't really help out my team at the moment. I tried to catch out the Kai'Sa underneath the tower, but unfortunately wasn't able to. So I'm just going to take the tower instead. And then we're going to go on to this Aatrox. You see, I'm just trying to kind of bait the Aatrox there, trying to protect my team. Not too sure why the Pyke's going back in, to be honest with you. Maybe I should be helping my team here. I just didn't think the Pyke would go back in. Okay, Pyke got another kill, I guess. That's one way to help. I thought the Pyke was completely dead. I'm waiting here for the Evelynn to show. As soon as the Evelynn shows, then I'm going to jump in, because I saw the Evelynn was just about to use her taunt. Then I wanted to go in. You can see here using the Omnivamp to give me a little bit of extra healing in terms of taking the objective. Unfortunately, it gets stolen. It's very difficult to try and steal an objective against Evelynn or try and secure an objective against Evelynn. I probably shouldn't have carried on taking the objective, if I'm totally honest with you. I probably should have just waited until Evelynn showed and then tried to jump onto her, but I definitely made a mistake there. I shouldn't have done that, but that's fine. They take the second dragon, which is not really good for us because they took the first dragon as well, but I think in general, that's still completely fine for us. We still got a few kills. We're still quite far ahead in terms of items and in terms of gold. Yeah, like I said, a better way to play that is to get the dragon low enough that Evelynn, or get the dragon low, but don't get the dragon too low that Evelynn can jump in, use a smite, and use her ultimate. Get it low enough that you can actually burst it down, but make sure that the HP of the dragon is high enough that you can actually kick the Evelynn away, or kind of bait the Evelynn to come in and expect you to do a lot of burst damage, which I didn't do there. And again, it's very difficult to try and secure an objective against Evelynn. You can see here I'm trying to dash onto the Aatrox, trying to do enough damage, but this Aatrox's damage is so disgusting. With Lulu ultimate, with everything else, it's so difficult to try and shut down this Aatrox. You can see that I tried to dash in. I even procced first strike as well to deal the extra true damage. Yeah, it was enough. The Edge of Night shield is going to be huge though this game for me. Really huge. I take Zhonya's this game as well, since they have a lot of burst damage from the likes of Evelynn, Aatrox, etc. I don't really feel like I need the extra dash. The big thing for me this game is survivability now. That's why we've gone for Edge of Night, which again is huge. You know, whether it's to do with the Aatrox knockup, whether it's to do with Evelynn's taunt as well. Like this, for example, like I'm actually able to stay alive here thanks to my Annul passive. That's all thanks to my Edge of Night passive. Being able to get that passive, get that shield is absolutely huge. And you can see that I'm just running around this fight. I got a double kill. Unfortunately, it was enough to take down a few others. I did get the shutdown on Aatrox as well. But the big reason why I was confident there was because of my Annul passive, thanks to Edge of Night. You know, being able to get that passive and then use it to my advantage to dash in, and then Evelynn can't do enough damage to me, I think is great. Just need to take a sip of a drink. Yeah, this game's pretty close though, to be fair. I mean, I am pretty fed, to be honest. I am very, very strong. Because my delayed timer, they might be doing Baron because Evelynn was alive before me. So they might be doing... Oh, it doesn't look like they're doing Baron. Yeah, you can see how slippery Lee Sin can be. This is a point of the game where Lee Sin does fall off. You're not going to do as much damage compared to like other assassins, like Evelynn, for example. Like, I can't really walk up and one-shot a Kai'Sa or a Ezreal, especially if they are Lulu behind them. It's extremely difficult. So my main goal now, what I'm thinking about in terms of this game, is using my abilities and using my kick to knock them into my team. That's my main goal this game now, is not to really do as much damage as possible, but try and offer the team a bit more utility. You know, kicking them into the team, etc. Things like that. I'm not too sure why this Jhin is walking up. Oh boy. Jhin walking up there to try and auto attack when he has no vision is not a good idea. Evelynn could have just been there and just one-shot the Jhin there. That was not a position an AD carry should be. For some reason he's trying to take my blue buff as well. Yoink. Take that one away. My Pyke at the moment is trying to land hooks. The problem is that we can't really engage either since we're against an Evelynn. Like, it's so difficult to engage against an Evelynn. Because Evelynn can be anywhere on the map. She can be behind us right now. If she really wants to, she could be behind us. She could be anywhere. We can only see 4 players. And this is why I'm like being patient. Because I'm waiting until Evelynn comes up on the map. As soon as Evelynn shows, then I'm going to try and jump onto the Evelynn and try and do as much damage to her as possible. But before then, it's so difficult to try and engage and do anything really in this game because of Evelynn's invisibility. Which is one of the reasons why she's so powerful right now. So you can see here, I'm waiting. I find a good opportunity here to go onto the back line, kick the Lulu and also the Ezreal and do a lot of damage to them. I do die, but I feel like I did enough there for my team to actually win the fight. And a really good Yone ultimate as well in the end. So in that situation, I found an advantage and I found an opportunity to jump onto the back line. I tried to kick the Ezreal, Kai'Sa and Lulu since they were all on top of each other. Unfortunately, I just missed the Kai'Sa, which was a little bit unlucky. I landed the kick onto the Ezreal and also Lulu, and then Jhin was able to land the snipe on the Lulu in the end, and also the really nice Yone ultimate in the end as well. So again, even though I didn't do as much damage in that last fight, I offered a lot in terms of, you know, crowd control. I kind of used it as a bit of the distraction, I guess you could say. You know, they saw me and Kai'Sa was like, oh, I need to ulti towards Lee Sin. Evelynn was like, oh, I need to ulti Lee Sin. All the ultimates were used on me. And the rest of my team were like, cool, we've already got all of our ultimates. So just being a bit of a nuisance, I guess you can say, in the end. But overall, a really solid game. Could have probably done with a flashier play at the end that maybe I didn't die. But I think overall, it shows you the power and the mobility and what strengths lie with Lee Sin. You can see in the end as well, 17,000 damage, not too bad. Second most damage on the team. See Aatrox's damage as well. This champion is so disgusting, but you're only doing the most damage on my team. Again, pretty nice performance by the likes of Pyke as well. Using that roaming potential of Pyke to kind of help me around the map is really, really nice overall. So yeah, that's everything in terms of the gameplay and everything I wanted to run through with Lee Sin. Hopefully you all enjoyed this guide. If you did, make sure you leave a like and follow for more. Next up is going to be Leona, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.